But Tyler Guyton obviously taken with the first round pick for the Cowboys. Then they take in the second round Marshawn Nealon, the defensive end out of Western Michigan. My favorite pick for the Cowboys, honestly, is the Cooper Beebe pick in the third round.
Like that one a lot. And that was the one where pick. You see Jonathan Brooks already off the table, so that pick was kind of gone for them there. And so instead of reaching at running back, which they didn't need to do there, Cooper Beebe, I'll give him. That's a better pickup than reaching on a running back right there. I'm with you on that one. Definitely like that pick.
Yeah, and I mean, Cooper Beebe, this guy's an All-American. He's an academic All-American and an All-American on the field. And Clarence Hill claims that he's gonna play or at least get reps at center as well as guard.
Yeah, I assume you're going to try him at that place and at least try and make that work. I mean, I think he's a good enough player that if you can say if we can get him and put him at our center and he can be a starter for us, that's a better fit for making our entire O-line better. I would figure they would try it at least.
Yeah, so they're going to try him at center, and I believe if that doesn't work out, obviously, he'll work out at guard for the Cowboys. So I like that. I mean, the Cowboys, listen, offensive linemen, the Cowboys have done a really good job, especially in the first round of drafting offensive linemen. I mean, you go look at it recently, what you're talking about, Tyler Smith or Zach Martin or Travis Frederick and Tyron Smith. So they're rebuilding that O-line, which I think is smart, but like I said, I love that. It's probably my favorite pick for the Cowboys in this draft.
And again, as much as I give Dallas.
It's not sexy. It's a eat your vegetables kind of pick.
But this is you get Tyler Biotish in the fourth round a few years ago. His contract comes up. You don't want to pay him the big money because you still have issues with what he does. So he's a good player for a fourth round pick. And on that salary, you don't want to, once you pay him a lot, the value is kind of gone. So you take a Cooper Beebe, if you can slide him in there and get the value there, then maybe you get a diamond in the rough. But at worst case, you figure he'll be around as good as Biotish was. So I think that overall in there, drafting O-line, that you've done a good job. They've done, I mean, not just in the first round, but mostly through the first 2 days. I think they've done really good in the past on offensive linemen.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said I like those. And the one that sandwiched in the Marshawn Nealon pick, some people are a little skeptical of it. I think for the Cowboys, that's their DeMarcus Lawrence kind of starter kit. He's 6'3", 265, 270. 34-inch arms. He's more DeMarcus Lawrence than he's kind of a Michael Parsons explosive, really just a wrecking ball, which is kind of what you get with Michael Parsons. I think that's what they love out of Marshawn Nealon. He does kind of fit that frame of a guy. I think he is a project. Now I'll probably say, man, you wouldn't draft projects in the second round. The Cowboys do. The Cowboys like projects in the second round or risks in the second round. And that's not he's a risk in terms of off the field stuff, but he's a risk because I don't necessarily think he is fully developed or well-rounded yet as a player. But I think he has all the raw materials, like I said, and the raw measurables. I think he can be their DeMarcus Lawrence starter kit. And DeMarcus Lawrence is getting older. They're thinking about moving on from him at one point. I mean, the next 2 years here is what I mean by 1 point here.
Yeah, I think that's the pick that you worry a bit more, that if you say, why are we going defensive line and not someone that can stop the run? And that's the problem. And I think if you didn't have the express need of stopping the run, then that's a great pickup of somebody to be a developmental talent. And it still is a good pick of someone to be a developmental talent. The question of it is, does this address a need we have? Or is this somebody that probably is not going to play for us much next year at all? Because you still have Sam Williams on this team that has been in the system for a couple of years. That's kind of your in training defend your edge.
But he's more like a Michael Parsons type. Like in terms of like the way he's a hybrid. So he's more of a Michael Parsons type. So I said this guy's more of a DeMarcus Lawrence type.
I'm just saying they're different types of players. If you're talking about in the depth chart, he's still going to be ahead. That's what I'm saying. So he's just ahead there. So he may not play a lot this year, but I agree with you. I think that he is the counterpoint to that. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and remember, they lost Dorrance Armstrong, and they lost Dante Fowler Jr., so they lost some of those pieces. But you're right. In terms of Sam Williams, he's supposed to be the guy that now this year has the breakout year. This is a big year for Sam Williams. It is. This is the year either they decide, all right, we're going to reinvest in him. Oh, it's time to move on. And I believe DeMarcus Lawrence was a second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was a second round. I believe he was a second round pick too. So I think DeMarcus Lawrence is playing a huge role here in drafting Marshawn Nealon. That's kind of my point. But no, I agree with you about the Sam Williams thing. Big year for Sam Williams, man. This is the year he's supposed to step up and be one of your playmakers. And how does he fit in that Zimmer system? That's big too. It's the first Zimmer draft.
That's true.
As the Zimmer as the DC too. So maybe he's looking at things a little bit differently as well. So that's the first pick for him in terms of the high pick for a defensive guy since Mike Zimmer's been the DC. They also get another defensive guy. They needed a linebacker. They got one, Maurice Leafau, who is the Notre Dame linebacker. I like that move. He's really athletic, great in coverage. Also a guy, long arms. I mean, I believe he's got 34-inch arms. So he's long, great in coverage, downhill player, physical linebacker. I like that pick, and this is really insurance, right? You're hoping that DeMarvion Overshown steps up into that role at linebacker, but if DeMarvion Overshown doesn't, then you got somebody else that at least can, bring you some depth there at the line.
Exactly. And I mean, you were light on there with Leighton Vander Esch. You were light on there last year with a couple other guys. So you needed more depth. This is a great player to put in there with depth. Yeah.
No, like I said, and once again, Zimmer, I'm sure Zimmer's got some input on these guys because of his system. And in the 5th round, they didn't have a 4th round pick. They get Kalen Carson in the 5th round, a cornerback from Wake Forest, who apparently they were really excited about. They were surprised he was still on the board there before the draft. He was seen as a top 100 player. 6th round, Ryan Flournoy, the wide receiver from Southeast Missouri State, this is rare because the Cowboys usually don't take players from mid-major, smaller schools.
Yeah.
Will McClay likes big-time universities, Power 5 universities, because he said it's easier to compare them competitively with other like talent guys who are also considered top 100 picks in the NFL. And then Nathan Thomas, offensive tackle out of Louisiana Lafayette in the 7th round, and Justin Rogers, a defensive tackle out of Auburn in the 7th round too. So some depth on the defensive line there. But I really like the Cowboys' first 4 picks, and basically the first 3 rounds for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought were well done.
The reality is, I don't dislike anyone really in this draft.
And trading out of the first round, by the way, was smart. Not trading down. I mean, trading.
Yes,
down. Sorry.
And that's for the Cowboys draft. It's one of those drafts that it's the only real issue I have with it is because you did not address much in free agency. You were assuming you were going to address more of these holes in the draft, and you didn't necessarily, other than offensive line, address much of those holes either.
Just linebacker.
You did, and that was the only draft. That's the only position you addressed in free agency either when you signed Kendricks. So, I get that, and that's you address some of the things and so it's not bad at all. You don't want to say. I mean, it's just that draft where you think, okay, but there's still, in May you have time. There will still be more, and you can be trying to get that best value. It's always just it's worrying because you have to hope that something goes your way, and we know Jerry relies on hope a lot. So that's why it gets frustrating. But overall, you didn't make any bad picks in the draft.